This video is sponsored by Sakuraco and TokyoTreat.
Hey, what's going on, guys? It's that time again, where I'm going to be answering a bunch of your questions in today's video, so it's going to be a little bit of a longer one because I want to answer as many questions as we can. Also, we're going to, of course, be checking out the latest boxes here from TokyoTreat and Sakuraco. As you can see, the boxes look a little bit different this time, and that is because we're celebrating the Tsukimi Festival, which I'll talk a little bit more about that in a second. It's the moon viewing festival in Japan, so that's why we have these very cool, dark, themed boxes on the outside, and all the contents inside will be themed to match. So we'll start the video off by taking a look at the boxes and their contents, explaining a little bit about Sakuraco and TokyoTreat, and then we'll enjoy all the snacks while answering your guys' questions in today's video. Like I said, it's going to be longer, so grab a snack, grab a drink to enjoy along with me, or just grab a kit to work on and listen while you're working. But big thank you to TokyoTreat and Sakuraco for sponsoring today's video. Let's go ahead and get into it. So for a quick introduction, TokyoTreat and Sakuraco are both separate monthly subscription boxes filled with Japanese snacks and all sorts of good stuff in there. You get around 20 or so snacks per box. With TokyoTreat, you're getting some of the latest, most exclusive, limited items, seasonal Japanese snacks, something like Sakura Pepsi, Japanese sake Kit Kats, stuff like that. Whereas with Sakuraco, it's more traditional and authentic, artisan type Japanese snacks. They partner with local Japanese snack makers to continue to share Japanese culture and traditions that have been passed down for hundreds of years through snacks. I personally really enjoy all the snacks from either box, and the one great thing is that both of the boxes also come with a 24-page culture booklet. The booklet not only explains everything that you need to know about the snacks themselves, but also gives you loads of cultural and historical information that is great if you're interested in Japanese culture at all. I really enjoy working with these guys because of their mission of wanting to spread Japanese culture throughout the world through the medium of snacking, which everybody loves, and you can learn a little bit more about Japan as well. Now for this month in particular, the TokyoTreat theme is Moon Festival Munchies box, so we've got some aptly themed snacks to go with that, and the Sakuraco theme is Kyoto Moon Festival box, where Sakuraco has partnered with the local Kyoto city government because, interestingly enough, Kyoto is the birthplace of Japan's Tsukimi or moon viewing festival. So checking out the TokyoTreat box and its contents here first, again, really cool, different design this time rather than the standard kind of orange and yellow design. It's similar to that, but it's got that moon viewing festival theme going on here. I love the rabbits on there too as well. Inside the box, and here's our booklet right on top. Looks like our Kit Kats this time are salt lemon Kit Kats. Those are going to be awesome. The booklet here, definitely one of my favorite parts of the box, is the Moon Festival Munchies here for the theme. Really cool artwork on the front. On the inside, here's a look at everything that's contained within the box and a kind of welcome letter here. This is always nice as just a brief introduction and kind of greeting from the TokyoTreat crew. Then we get into it with what is Tsukimi or moon viewing. You got some beautiful information and photographs to go along with that of all sorts of different cool stuff. On the next page here, we got how to make an origami Tsukimi rabbit, which is awesome. My son really enjoys doing origami, so I'll have to show this to him and so he can try making some rabbits for himself, and his sister, I'm sure, is gonna ask him to make one for her. Also, we got some Hello Kitty in this box. I know there's some Hello Kitty fans out there, I'm sure. Star milk bread from Hello Kitty, full moon pon crackers, Texas corn pizza will be fun. I'm gonna really enjoy that one, I'm sure. Pandaro melon cookie. I do love melon flavored stuff as well. Like I said, the salt lemon Kit Kats. So there's information about all these snacks. Moon viewing mochi for you and the gods. I love mochi as well. This box is shaping up to be a very nice one. Mikan mochi, which is like orange. So this is going to be a really good one. Ume soda as well is going to be our soda. There's always a drink included in the TokyoTreat box as well. So that's going to be our drink for this month. You also get some kind of instant ramen or something like that. This time it's going to be udon. It's a donbei tempura udon. I love udon. That's probably my favorite type of Japanese noodles. Sorry, ramen. I think I probably prefer udon, but well, I don't know. It's a tough call, but I do love udon. So that's going to be awesome. We'll make that. We'll try that out. The seaweed salt umaibon, love those as well. So a lot of really great snacks in there. Waffle as well, always love a good mannequin. The rabbit on the moon here, so a little bit of backstory as to what's with the rabbit iconography. The story of the rabbit on the moon. Here we got some Sailor Moon there, of course. Wouldn't be Japan and talking about the moon without Sailor Moon. Popular Tsukimi food menu. So it looks like it's not only just like traditional snacks, but you have around this time of year some other different foods that will come out that has a lot of eggs, I guess probably just for the circular kind of moon shape of eggs. So a lot of different good stuff. And as always, the photo contest. Here's a preview at some of the prizes for this month's photo contest. If you get the box and post your photos online with the TokyoTreat hashtag there, you can enter into the photo contest. Very cool. We'll get into all the snacks once we're going through your guys' questions and answering those, but this box came in weighing at 2.5 pounds in weight, so just as you can see, there's a lot of stuff in here, including our drink is a smaller one. It's like a smaller can this time, but the ume soda, ume flavored soda would be like a plum soda. That should be really nice. So I don't necessarily mind that it's in a smaller can because I'm sure it's going to be delicious either way. And the Sakuraco box up next is amazing looking as well. You can see this one is in collaboration with the Kyoto Chuo Shinkin Bank and the Kyoto Prefectural Government. So that's awesome. And just like a beautiful Megami device kit from Kotobukiya, you have that matte finish black background with that shiny gold on there. It just looks so nice and elegant. So very premium feeling box. The box is a little bit smaller than TokyoTreat box, but you have a really beautiful box here with this one. And as always with the Sakuraco box, you get an art card inside, which of course this month features some rabbits and the moon viewing there. You have your welcome letter here on the back of the card from the Sakuraco family and Ayumi Chikamoto-san. And in here on top, once again, our booklet here. Beautiful photograph of the moon viewing there in Kyoto Moon Festival there, volume 19 for September 2022. The inside cover once again shows you the contents of what some of the things are that you have in this box, and another kind of welcome letter here, Happy Autumn from the Sakuraco family. So this one would be like themed specifically for this box. For one of our maker highlights in this box, it looks like it's the Amesho Sawahara hard candy the hard way. So a traditional hard candy producer. There you go. You got some of those that we'll have in this box. Hard candy is good. Another maker highlight here is Shogoin Yatsuhashi. These are musical Kyoto sweets, so that's interesting. So again, just loads of awesome, not only photography, but information here about some of this stuff. And then we get into the actual snacks themselves. So we got matcha cream senbei, hard candy there, of course. Then our special tea for this month is going to be Gion Tsuchiri Hojicha. And as always, the snacks are catered to pair well with the tea, so I'll get some of that tea going for us so we can enjoy that together with the snacks. And one of the things that's special about the Sakuraco box is that it always comes with some piece of tableware. In this case, it looks like it's going to be a tsukimi plate, which looks beautiful. Can't wait to see how that looks in here. Let's just go dig it out amongst all the snacks while we're on the subject, because it's in this nice little box to keep it safe. As you can see, it's not necessarily very huge. It's not like a huge dinner plate or something, but it is very nice looking. So that's going to be our plate, our tableware piece for this month. Very cool. Sakuraco there on the bottom, and the moon viewing artwork there on the front. That's very cool. But anyway, back to the booklet. We've got some more information just about Kyoto City itself there. So if you guys have never been, I can highly recommend Kyoto. Of course, that's where a lot of the most famous things that you see about Japan are from. It's more about tsukimi, which we saw a lot of in the TokyoTreat box booklet, but some different photographs and some different information in here about that. Some information about geisha as well. I'm sure it's something you guys are all familiar with, at least on some degree. There's a cool bit here about the living Japanese history of geisha. It's definitely still a thing that still exists, especially in Kyoto. And then once again, we have the photo contest. So if you guys get the box and post your photos online, you can be entered into winning one of these awesome prizes here for the photo contest. So very cool. All right, guys, let's enjoy. So first off, going to be taking a look at the Donbei tempura udon. So I've gone ahead and made this. It should be all ready now. Smells good. And I've mentioned before, I don't typically really actually like instant noodles or the ramen, udon, kind of whatever, but I mean, it always smells and tastes good. I just kind of feel like I would rather have the real thing, you know what I mean? But if you don't have the real thing, it certainly makes a good substitute for that. Now, as this is pretty hot, let's go ahead and get into the first question here. Zero asks, what's your favorite mobile suit fighting style? For example, melee, ranged, rockets, etc. Really interesting question, and a question I don't think I've ever seen before, so I'm always happy to have a new question, one that I've never seen. And with this one, it's tough question, because I don't know, it really depends. I think when watching the anime, melee is always really fun to see in the anime, because you can really see the mobile suit just kind of really going at it, like right face to face, right? That's always fun to see in the anime. However, when it comes to the model kits, the more melee combat styled model kits, like Gundam, building those Gundams as model kits, I don't really quite as enjoy as model kits that have like really awesome ranged weaponry, like a big massive cannon, something like the Phaz or like the XS, for example. I think those are both from Gundam Sentinel, for example. But any mobile suits that have like some big, long, massive guns are, I think, always pretty cool to build. So it's kind of interesting what I enjoy watching in the anime and what I enjoy actually building as model kits are maybe a little bit different. But I can say like rocket-themed combat, something like the Zissa, for example, or like the Heavy Arms Custom, which, you know, is a mix of ranged Gatling guns and rockets. Those that have like a lot of rockets, maybe not quite as interesting, because in the anime, I guess they're pretty cool, but like as far as model kits go, they're usually just kind of there. I don't know, they're not really quite as visually interesting. Yeah, of course, not as good as the real thing, but it does taste great, I gotta say. Next question here comes from Alex, who asked, is your nickname related to Marcus Aurelius? Yes, in fact it is. I can't imagine that there would be pretty much any other use for the Aurelius part of my name other than some relation to Marcus Aurelius. And yeah, as I have explained before at different times, is that basically it's a mix of the Aurelius part comes just from the fact that I'm very into Stoicism. I'm a big fan of Stoicism, Marcus Aurelius being probably one of the most notable Stoic figures in history. So that's where that comes from, basically. Zaku is basically just because, obviously, Zaku as in like a Gundam, Zaku, and then also my name, Zak, pronounced in Japanese is very slightly differently spelled from the Zaku mobile suit, so it was just kind of a nickname among some of my friends when I lived in Japan. They knew I was into Gundam, so instead of calling me Zaku, they called me Zaku, which is actually the mobile suit. But the pronunciation is almost indistinguishable, the difference between them. So that's how I came to ZakuAurelius. I know it makes the name kind of a little bit awkward to pronounce, I think, for some people. I mean, I've heard other like people on YouTube pronounce it all sorts of different incorrect ways, but I don't really get too hung up on it. That's fine. Next one we're going to be trying out here is the Yamato Aji Kare. And as you guys can see, it's a pretty smaller bag, so not a lot in here, but I'm going to like it. I love Japanese curry. One of my favorite places to go to eat when I'm in Japan is Koko Ichiban Curry. I know it's not like, you know, you would think maybe go to Japan, you want to enjoy some like super traditional like ramen, of course, or sushi, something like that. But actually, curry is probably my favorite thing to eat when I go to visit Japan. But I can definitely smell that it's curry flavored. As soon as I open this up, it's just got curry smell, which is great. Not that strong on the curry taste though. I mean, it definitely is good and I can taste it, but it's not like that intense, which is nice. Next question here is, what do you feel about the rises of Armor Girl since it's popularized by Frame Arms Girl and Megami Device? Should they got their contest, and is the price really fair for the quality? So it's kind of three questions. The middle question, I don't really quite understand, sorry. Should they got their contest? I'm not sure. But as you guys may know or may not know, we're currently having a custom Mecha Musume contest. So if you guys haven't heard that before, go check out the video over on the USA Gundam TV channel. We've got the custom Mecha Musume contest currently ongoing, and you still have just under 2 months left for that. So it should still be plenty of time if you're just now hearing about it and you would like to enter. Or if you've been thinking about whether you want to enter or not, check it out, as there is a beginner and a advanced category. So even if you're not like fully into painting and customizing and doing all that, maybe you may just want to enter into the beginner category. Anyway, is the price really fair for the quality? This I understand, because especially the Kotobukiya model kits in particular are pretty pricey for the kits, which I do understand can be a factor when people are trying to decide if they really want to try out the kits or not. You know, maybe they've heard from me and everyone else basically saying that like, yeah, Kotobukiya are the best Mecha Musume kits out there, even though there's a lot of competition now. A lot of different companies are making Mecha Musume style kits. I still feel like Kotobukiya are still the best. So yes, I mean, they're the most expensive, but they are the best quality, I think, in my personal opinion. As far as the price of them in general being warranted, I mean, I would think that it basically comes down to the same factors that you have with anything. I mean, a lot of that cost just goes into the design work and any sort of licensing that's involved. Now, typically with like Megami Device and Frame Arms, that's all Kotobukiya's own property, so they don't have to license that. But they do have to bring in artists to do the design work on those. So, I mean, there's a lot of back-end costs into the production of these model kits. And then just the sheer amount of plastic in there. Like if you've ever built a Megami device kit, yeah, they're expensive, but once you open it up, you have like dozens of runners in there. There's a lot of plastic in those kits, even though the finished build ends up not necessarily being all that large. There is a lot of pieces, there's a lot of color separation and option parts and weapons parts and things like that. So for like the sheer size of the kit, you may not feel like the price, it matches fairly, but what I think you get instead, a lot of value, is just from the playability of them and the customizability of them, especially like some of the Megami device kits in general have a lot of stuff in the box that will allow you to do a lot of different customization, and of course it's all compatible with other stuff from Kotobukiya as well. Just to bring it back to the first part of his question here about the rising popularity of them, I think it's just a little bit of normalization. I think those kits were very popular immediately in Japan, and that's why we saw such a rise of Kotobukiya focusing on them, and then other companies started to get in. And I think with here in the West, we have a little bit more prude kind of nature where we're a little bit more hesitant, a lot of people, about, you know, it's maybe a bit weird. And I've seen this plenty in my comments on reviewing these kits over the years, is that people think it's kind of weird that you're like building like a girl character, sometimes seeing it as like an underage girl character, or too much skin showing, or this and that, whatever. I personally have never seen it other than just a model kit, which is basically all it is. But I think as it's growing in popularity, it is getting a bit kind of more comfortable for people who maybe originally, when they first started coming out, they felt kind of a bit weird about it, but now they're kind of seeing, hey, these are actually pretty cool, and more people are willing to try it. All right, guys, I have to try the Texas corn pizza for a number of reasons. First of all, I've always heard that it's a bit weird for Westerners when they go to Asia and see corn on pizza. It's something they do in Japan. They also do in Korea as well. Corn is quite common on pizza. I love pizza over there, with or without corn on it. With corn has never seemed weird to me, because we put all sorts of other different stuff on pizza. Corn is good, so if corn is on pizza, why wouldn't that be good? But apparently it's weird to some people. I don't know. What do you guys think about corn on pizza? I like it. I'm not sure how obvious the taste is going to be with these little corn pizza, Texas corn pizza balls, but they're very light, kind of like cheese balls, like really light, not crunchy at all. Like they're mostly just like kind of corn puffs. I guess that's where the corn comes, because I'm not really getting that much corn taste. But then again, like when you have corn on pizza, you don't really actually get that much corn taste with that either. It's mostly just tasting like pizza. I don't necessarily find that they taste like pizza that much either. It's more kind of just like a salty snack. And that is a good opportunity for us to try the ume soda. Yep, as with most ume flavored stuff, it's not really my favorite. I'm not really that big a fan of ume flavored stuff, but it's good. Wilson asked, when painting, do you assemble then top coat or top coat by piece? Good question. When painting, it really depends on the kit. So basically when it comes to top coat, I just need to make sure that everywhere that needs to get top coat is able to get top coat. So if you need to disassemble more in order to get your airbrush or spray can, whatever you end up using for your top coat, I do as much disassembly as needed, but don't disassemble parts that just don't really need it. So like if you have a leg of a Gundam, for example, if I'm planning on having it being fixed pose and not moving the leg at all, I can probably just spray like the entire hip section, the hips, with both legs attached, basically the whole like lower half of a Gundam. I can probably top coat that entire thing all at once, because if I'm not planning on moving the legs, then everywhere that needs to receive top coat is getting top coat, everywhere that's going to be seen. So basically, top coat is just the last thing that you're spraying on there to make sure that the kit visually looks like how you want it to look. And if it's an area of the kit that's not ever going to be seen, then it doesn't really even need to have any top coat on it. Now sometimes for me, and then for some other people too, you might want to do a little bit more disassembly just to make sure you're getting top coat like on the underside of the skirt pieces and things like that. Generally, I don't really pay too much concern to that. Again, it really just comes down to, as long as you're getting top coat on the parts of the kit that are going to show. So like on joints and things, another area where you need to be careful, because if you are planning on wanting to do different poses and you are going to want to bend that leg later on, if you spray with top coat and then just go off with like that, later if you're changing the pose and you bend that knee, then all of a sudden there's a part of that knee frame that's showing that wasn't top coated, and now it's going to look a bit weird, and it probably wouldn't even be all that noticeable, but it will be, you know, if you're paying attention to it, if you look closely, you will notice that, hey, there's a part of that knee joint that's like matte coat on the back and then like glossy on the front, just depending on what kind of paint you use as well, whether it's a matte finish paint or a glossy finish paint. That could also be something that makes a difference. All right, let's try something sweet here with the salt lemon Kit Kat. Now I guess it's sweet, but it'll be sweet and salty because it's salt lemon, but obviously it's like chocolate Kit Kat. Once again, this is a large bag of 11 minis in here. In trying different flavors of Kit Kat, I find that basically they're all good. No matter what kind of flavor they end up going with it, I've never had one that was like tasted bad, but I guess it could depend on what your personal taste is. But this one, I can definitely smell that lemon. Not necessarily all that like salty, I guess. Maybe I have a bad palate, but definitely lemony, which is awesome. It tastes great. Mokumon here with a pretty difficult question to answer because it's quite wide open, but he said, which Gundam do you want to be released as the next HG, RG, MG, MGEX, and PG or PG Unleashed? So rather than answering each of those individually, one that I've been saying a lot as of late would be the Rosenzulu, so that's just what I'm going to go with. And as far as which grade I think would be best for that, probably since it already has an HG, that wouldn't really make too much sense, and I wouldn't necessarily really want an RG of it. If I was gonna get a new Rosenzulu kit, I think I would prefer it to be a master grade. What's the likelihood of that actually ever happening? I would say it's probably pretty low, but you know, fingers crossed. And I think it's probably a relatively, I mean, they made 2 different versions of it as an HG, so it should be relatively popular. Hopefully we may someday get an MG of that, but I'm not really holding my breath. Let's try something else kind of fruit themed here with the melon cookie. And I guess there's different emotions on here. If you look on the back, you can see the panda's emotion can be different on these. So let's see which emotion our panda is. Well, unfortunately, a cookie is broken, so it's gonna be harder to tell. But it looks like this is the sad one, even though it's broken in half. But looking at the back on here, it doesn't necessarily look sad, so I don't know. Let's just see how it tastes. That's really nice, actually. Definitely has a melon taste. Really nice, just kind of shortbread cookie, melon. It's good. Zerdo here wants to know, why haven't we gotten an HG Aries yet? It's a very good question, but considering that the HG Leo, I mean, it has been a couple of years since the HG Leo came out, but not terribly long, and considering just like how many generally HG kits we normally get out, ones that are part of like not necessarily the HG UC line, but the HG UC AC, what are the HG CE? These are all kind of the same sort of line of HG releases. You don't get them that often in general. The fact that it's been a couple of years since the Leo came out, I think it is probably likely we will see an HG Aries at some point. I think I agree we should have had one by now, but I think it is probably likely at some point in the next 5 years or so, let's say. I think we could very likely see an HG Aries out at some point. I do agree that it is just kind of weird that we've not gotten any model kit of that, aside from, I believe, a B Club resin kit, I believe, exists. But other than that, as far as like a plastic model kit, there's not. So I would say it's likely we will get one at some point, though. All right, as I said, I love mochi, and I really want to try this Mikan mochi. So this is also, again, fruit themed. So as you can tell, there's a lot of like fruit themed stuff here. It doesn't say on the pack, but like with the Kit Kats, it seems like there's probably like 10 in here of just these little guys here like this. So a great snack to share with your friends or family. Basically just like these little squishy orange mochi. And that orange taste is so good. It's almost like biting into an orange that has like, imagine biting into an orange, but it doesn't have the same texture that an orange usually has, but instead it's just like this soft, chewy texture, because the taste is dead on, but the textures is totally different. So it's really weird. It's like eating an orange, but it's just an orange in mochi form, which is awesome. Okay, Batara said, I'm going to visit Seoul next month. Do you have any Gunpla hobby stores except for Gundam Base recommendations? Also, what are some of your favorite places, restaurants to visit with your family when you have free time in Seoul? Well, first of all, I'll say I don't particularly like Seoul. Of course, as you guys know, I lived in Korea for a long time. I lived on the far south side. Seoul is pretty far north in South Korea. It's relatively close to the DMZ with North Korea, but I didn't necessarily live super far away from Seoul because I don't like it. It's just kind of, that's how it happened. But I don't really like going to Seoul that much, to be honest. Like, there's some cool stuff to see and do in Seoul, of course, and it's a huge city. But I mean, it just kind of takes forever to go anywhere in Seoul, especially if you're going by car, but even if you're going by subway, because it has a very extensive subway system, which is great for getting around, but it takes time to get anywhere. It takes like an hour to go anywhere in Seoul, which I just don't really like. And then you end up, it's a lot of time riding around the subway, or like I said, if you're in car, it's a lot of time in traffic. That's just kind of the nature of any large city, I guess. But there's definitely a lot of really cool and fun stuff to do there. I would say Namdaemun is probably a really cool place to visit when you go there. Either that or is it Dongdaemun? Now I'm getting confused whether it's Namdaemun or Dongdaemun. Both of those are pretty famous places though, so either one of those or both. But Hongdae is the area where it's probably like the most I don't know if it's the most, but there's a lot of nightlife and stuff in Hongdae, and that also happens to be the area where there's a number of different Gundam stores. Now, as I've heard recently that Hobby Factory, which is located there, recently is not located there anymore, so I'm not sure that's the place that I would recommend, but I've heard that they're recently not there anymore, so I'm not sure about that. You would have to check, but Hobby Factory would be one. There's also Neighbor Hobby, which if it's still in the same location, it's in a kind of difficult location to find. But if you can find it, Neighbor Hobby is a great location to go if you want like paints and supplies and stuff like that. They don't like have as much focus on having a ton of different model kits as some other places. It's still going to be a lot more than like what you would typically find at like any store in the US, so it's still going to be awesome, but they definitely have a lot of tools and supplies and paints and things like that, so it's worth checking out if that's what you're shopping for. But other than that, yeah, Gundam base is probably going to be your best bet, and there's a number of different Gundam bases throughout Seoul and throughout Korea in general. What I would advise to you if you're planning on visiting Seoul is, depending on how much time you have, I would advise you to get out of Seoul a little bit, spend a few days in Seoul, especially if you have more than a week. I would say don't spend any more than a week in Seoul, spend a few days there kind of seeing the big sites, then get out, go to Busan and maybe some other smaller cities. There's a ton of stuff all throughout the country. It's a tiny country, but there's so much different stuff to see and do there that I feel like you would have a much more enjoyable experience if you had a little bit wider experience other than just Seoul. All right, let's check out the Full Moon Pon Crackers. This one, it's a rabbit theme on this. And Heavy Octane asks, so I heard that FromSoft is working on a new Armored Core game. Do you think they're gonna make new model kits based on the game? And if so, do you want it to be all new designs or remasters of the old kit? Well, that's news to me. I've not heard that, but I'll take your word for it. If there are new model kits coming out, they would undoubtedly be coming out from Kotobukiya, because Kotobukiya has made Armored Core kits in the past. I'm not sure how the licensing goes. If it's a new game coming out, it's gonna be popular, Bandai may try to get the licensing for Bandai to make some kits off the new game maybe. I don't know anything about that, but I would say it's probably likely that with the new game coming out that at least they'll reissue some of the older kits. If they make any newer kits, I would say maybe likely that they'll make one or two newer kits. Based on Armored Core's popularity in general, as far as I know, it's not that popular these days. So I don't think that they would want to go out and make like a dozen new kits from the new game necessarily, but I would imagine that maybe they'll make one or two new ones and then probably just reissue some of the old ones, would be my guess. But it's an interesting question, and like I said, the first time hearing about that, so let's try out one of these moon crackers. Very crunchy, as you can see there, and relatively plain. I mean, it doesn't really have any like too much like distinguishable taste. It's just salty, but other than that, just a nice kind of simple cracker. Lintang here asking another pretty interesting question here. Do you prefer more realistic mecha series like 8th MS Team and the likes, or more fantastical mecha series like G Gundam and the likes? Well, I love both G Gundam and 8th MS Team. 8th MS Team, one of my favorite Gundam series out there. G Gundam definitely would be as well. In general though, I think I prefer more realistic type stuff like the 8th MS Team. Fantastical, it really depends on quite how fantastical you go with it. I'm not really into like the more Super Robot Wars stuff, or like just like super robot stuff in general, I should say, sorry. Like Gurren Lagann and stuff like that. There's all sorts of different super robot series that I'm just not quite as into those as I am just the more kind of a little bit more realistic stuff. Now that said, there's a lot of stuff, even in like kind of the more realistic Gundam series, that's very unrealistic, but that's definitely if on the spectrum, that's where I would lean more towards the realistic stuff, definitely. Something like Hello Kitty. So these are the Hello Kitty Star Milk breads here. For your Hello Kitty fans, very cute and colorful packaging here, of course, naturally. This one looks like we got maybe 8 or so little star-shaped breads in here. I don't know if they're gonna have any particular taste other than probably just a milk taste, which means that like plain. Would go really well with a glass of milk, as it's very dry. Definitely need something to drink. Definitely need some milk to have with this. Just eating these plain, I gotta say, no, it's a miss for me. Not into it. Patrick asked, are there any really obscure mobile suits that immediately come to mind that you'd want a kit of? Well, the Rosen Zulu, not necessarily all that obscure, I guess, so that was the example I gave before, somewhat obscure. But a more obscure one that has been on my wish list for a long time would maybe be like the Saikomu High Mobility Test Type Zaku. Not sure if that's the full exact name, if that's correct, but there's a picture of it there on the screen for you guys. That guy is a really awesome design. Either that or the Bishop version of that, another version of that. We have like really old 1/44 scale 80s kits of both of those, which are just pretty... I would love if we got some nice new high grade, like HUC versions of either of those. I mean, something in 1/100 scale would be nice. If it was like an RE100 kit, I think that would be a pretty good fit for either of those. But HUC would be nice. All right, after being a little bit displeased with the Hello Kitty bread, let's try Mannequin Waffle. This is my type of bread here. Bread, I don't know if you could necessarily call it bread, it's bread-like. Mannequin, if you guys don't know, if you've ever been to Japan, you've probably seen one either in or very near a train station or a subway station. There's a lot of them like around subway stations, just these little waffle shops. Mannequin's a chain. They're all over the place, but they specialize in making waffles. You can also then buy them just from the store and stuff too. Very moist and heavy on the strawberry. It's almost like it's just been like sitting soaking in like strawberry syrup almost, but not quite that soggy, but it's definitely very moist. It's good. Ryuo has a question that I kind of wonder if he's testing me with this one, but it's, what's your opinion on polycaps? Do you prefer kits to have them or not? And the reason why I say I wonder if he's testing me with this, because it's a bit of a hot button issue for me, because I usually, when like we're talking about polycaps in like a live stream or something like that, I'll often go off on a rant about this, because I really don't get what the obsession is with whether this kit has polycaps or this kit doesn't. There's some people that get really into it, like, oh, it's amazing, this kit is amazing and it doesn't have polycaps. Like, that seems like such a secondary thing for me, like whether the kit has polycaps or not. I want to know, does the kit look good? Does it do what it needs to do? And that's kind of the main things. Whether it has polycaps or not is not really, I mean, an issue. If the fact that it has polycaps, I mean, if it were the case that the polycaps were kind of hindering the stability of the kit, like some joints were particularly weak because of the polycaps, then yeah, that would be unfortunate. I don't know if that necessarily would be better if the kit didn't have polycaps or vice versa. It's kind of hard to say. So in general, I don't have an opinion on it. I don't have a preference one way or the other. I just want a cool kit at the end of the day. There you go. All right, just a couple of things left here in the box. I'm just kind of gonna speed through these. We got Cheezak. That seems quite fitting. I'm guessing it's gonna be kind of cheese themed. Just a small little cracker here, just one of these. Ooh, that's very orange. I think it's supposed to be one thing, but it's kind of broken in half, but just look at how orange that is. It seems unhealthy. Oh, that seems like it's like the most unhealthy snack I've ever eaten in my life. Imagine like a cheese ball that's like also, I don't know, just it's just so super soaked in cheese and butter and buttery cheese. I mean, like, I feel like if you ate any more than one of these at a time, you'd probably be going to the hospital or something. Wow. Whew, man. That is intense. Wow. I mean, it's really good, like, to have one, but yeah, it's definitely, I couldn't imagine eating more than one of those at a time. Wow. Let's try something else that's always very salty. It is umaibon, which these are not quite as bad. And this one is seaweed salt flavored, so nori flavored. So it should be a little bit more tame. It's gonna come out here basically looking like a garlic breadstick, but Really good. But if you don't like nori, or in Korean kim, it's like just a dried salty seaweed. If you don't like that, you won't like the taste of this. But if you do, then you'll love the taste of this. Yeah, it's really good. I do. I really like the taste of kim. It's good. Or again, nori in Japanese. But yeah, it's really nice. QMD has a really good and important question here for a lot of people. How do you balance family life with your hobby and your current occupation? He said we had a baby girl last month, and I'm interested to know from others as well. So first of all, congratulations on your baby daughter. And I certainly understand your concern. It certainly is something that I struggled with, especially a lot when my son was born, my first. Less so with my daughter when she was born a couple years later, because by then I'd kind of figured it out a little bit better. But something I definitely struggled with at first. At that time, my hobby was not my job. Now my hobby is also my job, so it all kind of goes together. But at that time I was doing my day job and my hobby, and had a new son, and was just recently married before that. So like all that was going on at the same time. It was difficult, yeah, definitely. The main thing to keep in mind is just to make sure that you spend enough time with the people in your life, your wife or girlfriend, whatever, your partner, and your baby. Spend as much time as you can with them. They'll be much more important. And then if you can sneak a little time here and there to enjoy your hobby, if you've got your occupation, your job as well that you've got to go to during the day, maybe at night, if your partner and your baby are asleep, and you can grab maybe an hour or two maybe before you want to head to bed, enjoy that time to enjoy your hobby. But I would also caution you to be careful, because even though you think that your partner and your baby are asleep, so you can kind of enjoy some time to yourself, doesn't necessarily mean that you won't be missed from the family time, because maybe your wife or whatever would prefer you to, even though they're kind of sleeping, to just kind of still be around, because especially with the new baby wakes up all the time, and she might need your help with doing whatever. A lot of times, when babies are that small, they basically just only really need their mom most of the time, but there might be certain things that you might need to help out with, and if you're not like there in the room, your partner might be kind of annoyed by that. So just something to make sure that you're open with, discussing with other people in your family, making sure that they're not resenting you for any reason for spending time doing your hobby when you think it's probably a safe time to do that. But again, the main focus should just be, of course, on your family and your job. Your hobby is something that you should just be able to try to sneak in a little bit here and there. I don't necessarily mean sneak as in like you have to hide it from your family, but I mean just you're not going to be able to enjoy it as much as maybe you were before. You'll have to just get a little bit here, a little bit there for the time being, but it'll get better. Let's switch from salty to sour with this sour paper candy apple. So this is basically like a long, like kind of like a fruit by the foot, kind of, I guess, in the US, just like a long strip of gummy candy that's coated in sugar. I think we had one of these before a couple months ago, a different flavor. Very sweet and sour. It's not like super sour, like a really super duper sour warhead kind of thing like that. The sourness is there, but it's a really nice balance of the sweet and sour. It's really good, actually. I really like it. And while we're on the candy, let's also just real quick try this ramune candy. This is Kupi Ramune. It's basically a package of these little candies in here. Ramune, if you guys didn't know, from a past box we had from TokyoTreat, is basically like a kind of a soda, Japanese soda flavor. Haley Lily asked, what's your favorite mecha overall? That's a really tough one. I don't know, my favorite mecha overall. Let's just say, seeing as how Zaku's part of the name of the channel, let's just say the Zaku. And then even with that, I guess if you really want to get specific as to which version of the Zaku, maybe I guess just the standard Zaku too. I don't know, it's a tough one to answer though, and one I just don't really think that I could answer. I've never put that much thought into it to narrow it down to one single mecha that could be my favorite of all time ever. I don't know, my brain doesn't work like that. When you guys ask me like my favorite stuff, I'm not the kind of person that has favorites of anything, so I don't know, it's always a tough thing to answer. But for the last thing here from the TokyoTreat box, we have some brown sugar pretzel sticks. So we had a lot of brown sugar stuff in another recent box. but this one is a poriki. It's kind of similar to poki. Ooh, but they are very dark here, and they almost look like me. If you didn't know, you would think that they're maybe going to be chocolate flavored or something, but yeah, brown sugar. Yeah, these definitely would have gone really well with the brown sugar. I think that was the Sakuraco box, I believe, last month was brown sugar themed. But these poriki snacks don't really fit with the Sakuraco theme. They more fit with the TokyoTreat theme. It's just that the flavor matches better with the last month's Sakuraco box. That is everything from the TokyoTreat box. Now, let's switch gears to the Sakuraco box. And with this, I have gone ahead and prepared the tea because the tea always matches really well with the snacks in the box. So I highly recommend drinking them together. You do get 2 of the tea bags. So, you know, if you want to have one and enjoy some of the snacks, and then maybe the next day or whenever you want to enjoy some more, make the other tea so that you can have enough tea to last you through all the snacks. And there's a lot of snacks, so maybe it won't last you through everything, but at least get you a good ways the way through there. And I want to start off with the bread. So this has been a pretty common one that we've seen in past boxes. I think we had a brown sugar themed one, we had a chocolate one. This one is a sweet potato. This is a satsumaimo bread, as I've mentioned in the past videos. Like I said, bread like this, just from a Japanese convenience store or something like that, is pretty common to find and makes for a really good snack or breakfast or something as you're traveling around Japan. I highly recommend it to you guys. And you know, if you are just looking for something to eat on the go, again, Japanese culture, it's not really good to eat while on the go, like while walking on the street. You're meant to sit down somewhere and eat somewhere and not eat while you're walking. But if you're a foreigner, probably no one's gonna say anything to you. I love sweet potato and sweet potato flavored stuff. This basically just tastes like bread. It's sweet bread, but not really getting that much sweet potato taste out of it. Now, paired with the tea, what we had last month was a really nice kind of sweet jasmine kind of tea. This one is a more earthy taste tea. Checking out the information here in the booklet, it says, gently roasted from the inside through a sand oven, this hojicha has a strong aroma but light flavoring. Can confirm that. Pairing well with both sweet and savory snacks is the perfect palate cleanser. Oh, okay, nice. All right, Curious Zaku asked a curious question here, wondering kit bash or custom ideas? Of course, those that you're willing to share at the moment. So yeah, as far as any kit bash or custom ideas that I have, I always kind of got a lot stored up there, kind of like a back closet in my head stored with for storing all sorts of different custom and kit bash ideas that I have that'll probably never happen. But one that I think I haven't talked about before would be basically like mixing the Core Gundam Mark II, I believe it was, with the Tertium Gundam, and then like some other different parts in there using like the back weapon system from Build Fighters, the back weapon system Mark II, I believe it was, with that one. I had like a few different things that I thought would look really good, kind of all mixed together into a single build. So that's something that I plan to work on in the near future. Let's try another little cute bunny cracker. This is similar like the one that we had with the TokyoTreat box. This is the Mangetsu Pon Amakara soy sauce. So it's going to be a little bit of soy sauce, but I'm guessing probably it's just going to be like kind of just a salty cracker with like a little bit of like a soy sauce taste to it. Because soy sauce, I mean, it's just like a salty taste basically, right? And yeah, it's very similar to the cracker we had in the TokyoTreat box, just like a smaller version of that basically. Yeah, pretty similar. Can get like a little bit more soy sauce with this one, I guess. Yeah, pretty similar like the big one that we saw with the TokyoTreat box. Ben asked, hand paint an MG or airbrush a Maschinen Krieger kit? Yes, interesting. So kind of swapping the painting style of them. Which one would I rather do? Interesting question. Probably I would rather airbrush a Maschinen Krieger kit because for an MG, I feel like, you know, most of the time those are just going to look better and just kind of your standard airbrush, standard style of painting a Gundam kit, I guess, with an airbrush. Whereas with Maschinen Krieger, obviously like hand painting them in the kind of Maschinen Krieger style is going to be the best look for them, but I've seen a lot of really cool, just like a little bit more like Gundam style airbrush painting on a Maschinen Krieger kit. I've seen plenty of examples of that also look really cool, and it's something that I've actually wanted to try for a long time, so it's something you guys will probably see me try at some point, maybe later this year or next year or something like that. And a future project would be making a Maschinen Krieger kit, but doing the painting and decals and everything like that much more akin to like a Gundam kit, so it's something that I've definitely wanted to try for a while. One of my favorite things about these Sakuraco boxes is the pudding or jelly. A lot of times it's a jelly. In this case, it's a pudding. This one is the Kyoto Hojicha Latte pudding. So hojicha being just like a tea. So it's basically a tea, like a milk tea pudding, essentially a tea latte pudding. I love milk tea. I don't know how you guys feel about it. I love milk tea. It's another one of my favorite things to consume while I'm in Japan. I drink probably like a bottle of milk tea almost every day while I'm in Japan. I love it. So if this tastes anything like that, I'll be very happy. Now, unfortunately, I didn't bring a spoon with me. I have my fork I was using to eat the ramen, but I'm just gonna... As much as I love milk tea, it is a bit weird to be having it in this form, I'll say, and this definitely is not quite as sweet as milk tea usually is. It definitely tastes very similar to the hojicha that we have here that we're drinking. So it's a very similar taste to that, a little bit more kind of earthy taste, not that sweet. But it's really cool though, I gotta say. I mean, like, it's really interesting. I know, it's something different. I've never had anything quite like this, I don't think. I mean, I've had all sorts of different kind of like jelly from Japan. But this one, yeah, it's something and then I've had all sorts of different kind of like pudding in Japan too, which I love. But not like a mix of milk tea kind of pudding like this, I don't think. Aaron asked, would you want a Master Grade Savior Gundam from the Gundam Seed Destiny? How about some Wing TV versions like the Ultron Death Scythe Hell, Heavy Arms, Wing Zero Custom, Mercurius Fate? For the later part of your question, some Wing TV version kits, yeah, pretty much all of those I could go for. The Ultron especially, I would love to see. The Death Scythe Hell, not really one of my favorites. It used to be a long time ago. I used to love the design. These days, it wouldn't be a kit that I would be all that excited about. Of course, I would love to give it a try. I would build it and enjoy it, I'm sure. The Wing Zero Custom, we basically already have that. But a Master Grade Mercurius and Veye, I would also love. Those would probably be at the top of my list. I'm glad that we got those as the new HG kits though, so with those, it's maybe not so much with the Ultron, the fact that we don't have anything other than old kits from the 90s of the Ultron. Among the ones that you mentioned, that would probably be the one that I'd be most excited about having a new MG of the Ultron, just because we haven't had a new kit of the Ultron again since the original kits came out. So whether that was coming out as a new HG or as a new MG, I would be very happy, but otherwise, I mean, Mercurius and Veye, the HGs are great. If we got Master Grades as well, I wouldn't complain at all. I love those kits as well, those designs. As far as a Master Grade Savior Gundam from Gundam Seed Destiny, not one of my favorite designs. It's another one that I wouldn't necessarily be all that excited about. I would enjoy building it and reviewing it for you guys. It wouldn't be anywhere near like the top of my list though, my own personal list. This is a really cool collaborative cookie cracker here. Again, I'm referring to the book here as the Kyoto Moon Viewing Gaufrete. Not sure on the pronunciation of that, but this is a collaboration with Sakuraco and Gion Tsuchiri. I guess Gion Tsuchiri began growing their prized matcha here in 1860 with the time-consuming method of stone grinding, unchanged since then. So matcha obviously being Japanese green tea. That is what we've got in here on this very cool printed cookie. You can see there, rabbit and moon, Sakuraco, our logo there as the moon. Pretty cool. You can see it's green on the inside there. Has that matcha taste, which I'm not that big of a matcha fan to be honest, but it's nice. Tastes great with the tea too, I will say. Okay, Alan's question is a really cool one. He said, will you be making a video revisiting RG kits like you did with the Shinanju? Check that video out if you guys have not seen it. I also, not necessarily revisited the Zeta kit, but I did a kind of analysis video of the RG Zeta kit. It was my first time building it, so it wasn't revisiting, but take a look at that video as well too, just concerning like older RG kits or RG kits that have a bad reputation. But he said, should Bandai release a RG 2.0 line for those RGs with ERS? I'm not sure what ERS stands for. I believe you're referring to early real grade syndrome, I think is what that refers to, is something that I've heard people talk about before. And what should their top kit to remake be next to the Shinanju? So A couple things. This, I think that, again, I believe that's what I've heard, this early real grade syndrome. I don't think that that's really that big of a thing. I think that's very blown way out of proportion. Early real grades are not that bad at all. If Bandai were to make a 2.0 of any RG, I think what it could and should be maybe the RX-782, although I just don't really think that even the RG RX-782 is not that bad by any means that it really warrants a 2.0, but I think they could redo it as a 2.0 in maybe a little bit different style, and that could be interesting. So they could also, I mean, they could make some improvements to the inside and then also make some aesthetic changes on the outside style of it, because the first one, the real grade RX-782, the master grade 3.0, and the mega size RX-782 are all designed to match the design of the 1:1 scale RX-782 when that was built, when that was up in Japan for the 30th anniversary of Gundam. But if they were to make a RG 2.0 and make the RG now maybe in a style to match the Perfect Grade Unleashed or something like that, I think that could be cool. Otherwise, I don't really think that there's any RG that I would say that really needs or that I would personally want a 2.0 of, or that they should revisit. I think all of the RGs are fine. The Shinanju, yes, would probably be at the top of the list, I guess, just because I wish that they would have made a fully new or dedicated inner frame for that kit rather than reusing the frame from the Mark II. I think probably what would be better would be just making it as a 1.5 where all of the outer armor pieces and everything, they just keep all that the same and they just make a new frame for it basically. I think that would probably be the better way to go if possible, just making it as like a 1.5. But what are your guys' thoughts and opinions on that? Let's try something very cute and tiny with the Tamba black bean arare. So it's just a little black bean little snack here. And we do have 2 of these in here. Arare, typically just kind of a salty snack. Definitely got that arare crunch. It's a nice, not super salty, crunchy, salty snack. Benedict asked, what's your dream kit bash? Well, I'm not sure what my dream kit bash would be, but currently I'm dreaming about kit bashing the HG, the O, and the HG DOM, because that's something that I've got to work on. If you guys saw the live stream build of the Perfect Grade Fenix, I believe it was, from last year, that was something that was voted on by you guys, of the 2 kits you guys wanted to see kit bash. So now I'm in the process of trying to wrap my head around how exactly I'm going to go about kit bashing those 2 kits. Haven't quite figured it out yet, but that's something that I've been kind of starting to think about, and that'll be an upcoming project that you guys will see some more about that in the near future once I wrap up a couple of current projects. Alright, this one, the Kyoto Crunch Yatsuhashi. So we saw this in the book, and to me it looks like roof tiles, but it's got a very interesting shape here. Yeah, it just has like a roof tile kind of shape to it. Wow, so very hard, crunchy, but man, that taste is really nice. It says here it's unchanged since its conception 330 years ago. This traditional confectionery is made using only rice, flour, sugar, and niki, which is Japanese cinnamon. So yeah, it has a really, really nice cinnamon taste. I don't know if you guys, if you like cinnamon, but if you do, this is a really nice, very crunchy cinnamon sweet snack. All these question here is, what are your favorite obscure mobile suits, UC or otherwise, that you would want a kit made of? So I already named a couple before the Sakomo test type Zaku, the Rosenzulu would be a couple of them. But another one that I've got in my quiver of ones that I can throw out when you guys ask this type of question, another one that I just kind of keep in mind is the Siscade. We did actually get a SD cross silhouette kit of the Siscade, which was awesome. But I personally, and I know a lot of you guys out there too, would love to see either an HG kit of the Siscade or an RE100. Again, this is one that I definitely don't think that they would ever make a master grade of. HG would probably be the most likely, but an RE100 would be kind of cool as well, I think, to have it in a 100 scale. But the Siscade would be an awesome one to get. Let's try some of these retro animal yochi cookies. So it's a big bag of these cookies, which seem a bit like, kind of like a frosted animal crackers, sort of. They're sugar glazed and in the shape of animals. I'm not sure what the animal shape is for this one. Sort of like a bird, I guess. A little dry, but the sugar glazing on them makes them nice and sweet. Let's also try the Kinako Mochi. Now this is actually an arare, but apparently arare is a type of mochi. Just going by what they say in the book here, I did not know that. So this is basically going to be a arare, like I said before, just kind of a crunchy, salty snack. Definitely not near as crunchy. It's very kind of soft in comparison to other arare. Really nice, actually, and just kind of a salty, sweet, salty taste, but good. Mr. Anderson asked, what's the worst kit in your opinion with the highest potential to look good with some work put into it? Well, okay, interesting question. So just by the nature of your question, I think it's probably pretty easy to assume that this is going to be just an old 80s kit, something like that. Now, actually, the Sakuma test type Zaku would be a good candidate for this question as well, just because it's a kit that, you know, as it is, the old 80s kit, not going to be very good, but if you put a lot of work into it, you could make it look really awesome. And I have seen examples of that, of some really amazing builds with some of those old, especially like just like old 1/44 scale MSV kits. Really cool designs, but you know, as they are, they're not very good. But you know, I've seen people that do put a lot of work into them, and they really look awesome. So I would just kind of say the 80s MSV line in general of UC designs, and it's especially a lot of like obscure Xeon MSV designs in there. There's some other ones like the Jim Cannon, stuff like that from the Federation side as well, but the Xeon ones especially, there's a lot of really cool ones there. Let's try this really tiny soy sauce cashew. It's this little tiny package here. This is from Kyoto Komamehan. Yeah, so it's just gonna be 2 cashews in here. That's it. But like a snack coated cashew. They're interesting. That's nice. Saku-chan is asking, why are you making these questionnaires about Gundam designs? Do you have a secret plan with the result? Yes, exactly. Some of you guys may have noticed on YouTube, I've been posting polls there for you guys to vote on what's your opinion on different Gundam designs. What I'm doing is trying to figure out which are some of the most controversial lead Gundam designs. There's a lot of other kind of mecha designs within the Gundam universe that I think would probably be much more controversial as to what people's opinions of the designs are, but for what I'm just doing at the moment is just trying to go through all of like the lead Gundams from each series and figure out which ones are kind of the most polarizing amongst your guys' opinions, as far as like which ones have the most even spread as to likes to dislike or neutral opinions on those. So if you guys have not seen those, if you've not voted in any of those polls, just go to my community tab on YouTube, and there's all the polls there for all the different Gundams. Go through those. Just the more feedback I get from you guys helps me to have a better idea of what kind of generally are some of the most controversial Gundam designs, lead Gundam designs. So once I'm through with all those, then obviously I'm planning to make a video about that, and then it'll be your guys' polling that I cite for the Gundams that I talk about in that video. Let's try the Kyoto Classic Yazu Dorayaki. So Dorayaki is something we've talked about before. Is basically like 2 pancakes with some kind of paste in the middle. Usually it'd be like a azuki sweet red bean paste. This one being yuzu. I think I said yazu before. Yuzu is like a Japanese citrus kind of fruit. So this will be a fruity one rather than like a sweet red bean paste, typically is what's in these. Yeah, definitely getting that yuzu taste. Really nice. I generally like dorayaki, and paired with the yuzu flavoring inside it is really good actually. Yeah, this is nice. Count has a quite interesting question here, asking, out of the protagonist Gundams, what's your favorite? And what protagonist Gundam has the best model kits? A very interesting question, and I'm trying to think about this. I think probably objectively, the protagonist Gundam that has the best model kits, I think of course would either be the ARC-72 or the new Gundam. The HGUC new Gundam being not as nice as like the Master Grade Verka or the RG, which have been out a little bit more recently. The ARC-72 of course just has a lot of different model kits, so of course it's going to have some of the best model kits out there, with it being the original Gundam. But aside from the ARC-78 too, because I think that's probably a little bit unfair, other than that, I think the new probably generally has the best model kits, although it's definitely not one of my favorite designs. I actually don't really like the design of the new all that much. As far as a lead Gundam, that would be one of my favorites in terms of a design, and also has great model kits. probably going to maybe be a little bit boring or unsatisfying to some of you guys, but I probably would have to say the Unicorn Gundam, which also, I mean, aside from the RX-78 probably just has the most amount of model kits in general. So I mean, obviously it makes sense that it would also have some of the best. Aside from the RX-78, I think the Unicorn's definitely Bandai's second favorite Gundam that they like to make model kits of. But I mean, you have the MGEX is fantastic, the RG is fantastic, the original MG and its many different variants, and the original HGUC have their issues that people will like to point out, but honestly I don't think either of those kits are really that bad, and both of those kits I think look great. Although like with the original Master Grade Verka, it had some like posing issues, articulation issues, things like that, but it's a really great looking kit at the end of the day. And kind of the same thing with the HGC and its many different versions of that, but probably would have to say the Unicorn Gundam. We have one more snack here with matcha cream. This is the matcha cream senbei. So this I think is probably going to be pretty similar to the other one that we had, but a little bit different cracker. This one is still pretty thin and in a very cool like design on the cracker. Hopefully you guys can see that, but it's a little still pretty thin, but it's thicker than the cracker that we had before that had matcha cream in it, but basically it's pretty similar to that. Definitely a thicker, crunchier cracker with this one. It really reminds me of something. I can't exactly put my finger on it, but it is really nice anyway. It tastes good. Alex asks, have you ever worked on any of the Zoid model kits? And of course I have. I've only built one of the Takara Tomy model kits of a Zoids kit. I've built a few of the Kotobukiya HMM Zoids kits, and they are fantastic. I sing their praises all the time because they're awesome kits. Highly recommend them to you guys. They have quite a wide range of Zoids HMM kits from Kotobukiya. They're awesome. If you were to compare them to like a Gundam model kit, they're of the complexity that I would say is sort of on par with even like a perfect grade almost. They're very complex model kits. Now there's different ones like in terms of like their size. When you have like some of the smaller ones like the Rev Raptor, like compared to something like bigger like the Genosaur. So there's a little bit of difference there, but generally they're very super detailed, quite parts heavy. So they take quite a while to put together, and they're just really detailed. But they're awesome kits, definitely like at least on the level of expecting like building something like a master grade. With like some of the larger ones being, like I said, almost like building a perfect grade model kit because they're just quite large and very parts heavy. Okay, Soba Boro is our next kind of cookie cracker snack here. Again, we have a pretty large bag of these. So these are soba, being like soba noodles is buckwheat, and boro, I guess, is what they're saying here is like for a cake. So it's sort of like a buckwheat cake cracker cookie here. Interesting flavor, but it's nice. I think this will be good with the tea. The taste and the texture is almost kind of like a little bit harsh with the cookie, but like the tea really kind of smooths it out, if that makes sense. And it's really nice to have that together with the tea. Heart asks, what's the maximum added price of a markup you're willing to pay if buying kits at their MSRP is available? If buying the kit at MSRP is unavailable, so yeah, if you can't get the kit, if it's like a kit from Bandai that just hasn't been reprinted in a while, so you can't find it anywhere at like kind of a standard MSRP price, how much markup are you willing to pay for it? That really depends. For me, unless I really needed the kit like for a project that I was really excited to work on, I probably wouldn't pay any markup at all. Because with anything from Bandai, they reprint stuff from time to time, so if it's not something that you can find at MSRP, I would say just wait until you can later, because it's just a matter of time until Bandai reprints it. Now if it's something like the HGC Neo Zeon, which Bandai has not reprinted for a very long time, and I don't know when they're going to be reprinted. They were supposed to be reprinting it, I think last year or the year before, and that just got delayed, and as far as I know it's still delayed. So say for example you really wanted an HGC Neo Zeon, probably, I don't know what it is now, but I'm sure you're definitely paying a markup for any place that's got one for sale now. It just really depends on how much you really want it. For me, I can't imagine there would be anything from Bandai that I would really be willing to pay that much of a markup for, just because I know that I could get it later. If it's a matter of urgency, and for me there's just not any urgency because I have a gigantic backlog and like hundreds of kits that I could work on instead, so I just don't really need a kit that badly. But again, it really just depends on you how much you really want that kit right now, because otherwise I would say to just wait until you can get it later at or closer to MSRP. Okay, last thing to try here is of course the Kyoto candy. So I wanted to end with some of this hard candy here. And we'll just answer one or two more questions as we wrap up. Elijah asks, what's the best plastic color to paint over? It's an interesting question because I'm actually planning to do a video on this topic, not this topic in general, but Kotobukiya makes some FME kits, which is the 4 Modelers Edition kind of versions of some of their frame arms kits. And basically what that is like the kit's all white, and the idea is that it makes it easier to kit bash, it makes it easier to paint because you basically just have a plain white surface to go off of. Bandai also makes some Gundam Base exclusive versions of some of their kits that are like in all white, and I can't remember what they call it, but it's basically like, I don't know, Modelers version or something like that. It's a hard candy, so I'll have to let you know what I think about it kind of as it's going along. But I've wondered about that, if white is really the most ideal color for a Gundam kit to start off, and I think probably, but not necessarily. It really depends on what you want to do with it. Now I think it just kind of depends on the kit. For Gundam model kits, usually you're going for more kind of bright colors, so white is a good base. But depending on what you wanted to do, like say for example, if it was a design that typically kind of has a more darker color scheme, then maybe starting off with white plastic is not the best color to paint over, and if it was like a black or I don't know, sort of like a dark gray color, it maybe be a little bit better, something that basically simulates like a dark gray primer. That color would be easier to paint darker colors over. But then you have machining courier kits are a really good example of this, because a lot of times the colors that machining courier kits are molded in is intentional for how you may want to paint and weather the kit. Like say for example, maybe a kit will be printed in black because that's just kind of, again, a very dark base for painting on top of. Or other times the kits will be printed and the plastic will be all like metallic silver, and that is so that when you go to your painting you can actually do reductive chipping on that and actually just chip away the paint, and you already have that metallic silver there. You don't have to actually add that in by painting. So when you're doing your painting, chipping away that paint is just a little bit easier just based on the color that the plastic is molded in. So that's kind of interesting as well. So it really just kind of depends on the kit and what you want to do with the kit. There's not like any one good answer for that, but it seems like from model kit companies like Bandai and Kotobukiya, their opinion is that the best base color of plastic to paint over is white, and that's probably, I guess, the best option. Hard candy, I gotta say, doesn't have a very strong taste to it. It's not super sweet by any means. It's definitely quite hard though. Definitely feels like, I mean, you can taste like just like store-bought hard candy and like actual hard candy that's actually like handmade from somewhere. If you go to like a fair or something like that and somebody's selling like handmade hard candy, it's definitely different. This one you can definitely taste is like actually a handmade hard candy because it actually is really hard. I'm not personally like the biggest fan of hard candy just as like something to eat or snack on, even as far as like candy goes, but it does feel nice in that it doesn't feel like it's just like solid sugar and just like rotting away my teeth. It's not super sweet. It's a little bit much less sweet kind of taste to it. And there are different flavors here. It says there's a brown sugar, Japanese mint, matcha, shiso, ginger, and plum. I think the one that I have now is matcha, which probably explains why it has a pretty somewhat bland taste, because matcha doesn't have a super strong flavor to it. Here's a great question to end on here. Notrod said, "Hello ZakuAurelius, how are you doing? I'm very glad you asked, and I'm doing particularly well today, actually. Thank you. Past couple days, and especially this morning, were pretty rough, but after getting through what I got through this morning, handled some stuff, and now I'm doing quite well, so thank you for asking, and that's a good point to end today's video. I know it's been pretty long. Wanted to get through both those boxes. I just want to say another big thank you to TokyoTreat and Sakuraco for the support. Personally, guys, honestly, I really love all the snacks and really do enjoy these booklets as well, so it seems like just kind of an added thing into the box, not really that big of a deal, but they are really actually nicely curated. just the information, the cultural stuff, the photography in there and everything. So whether you think you might be more interested in TokyoTreat or Sakuraco, you can use the coupon code ZAKU to save $5 off your first box. The links to both boxes are down in the video description below and in the pinned comment. Check it out if you're interested. It definitely helps me and my channel. But again, thank you to you guys for hanging out in today's video, and I'll see you all next time. Hope you're having a great day. Bye guys.